WatchGuard Capital. Invest your time wisely. If you missed part 1, the J&J slip and fall Ponzi scheme, you may want to pause this video and watch that one because this video is an update to that one. Let's start with Matthew Beasley. The Nevada lawyer who confessed to running a $300 million plus Ponzi scheme, he has officially been temporarily suspended from practicing law in the glittery state of Nevada as of April 1st, 2022, which is absolutely not surprising. And I'll go out on a limb and say that temporary suspension is going to turn into a permanent one, but that's still to be determined. Before we get into any new information, here's what I got wrong in the last video. Beasley had 2 interest on lawyer trust accounts or IOLTAs, not 1 account, and both are now frozen. And Wells Fargo is most likely receiving subpoenas on the daily for the statements from those accounts by the numerous law firms representing civil lawsuits and government agencies pursuing criminal charges and complaints. I stated that the $5,000 administration fee baked into the purchase agreements was retained by the slip and fall victim's lawyer. The SEC complaint states that Judd told investors that half went to Beasley and Beasley Law Group, the other half of which went to the tort's plaintiff's attorney, so I got that wrong. But since that part was made up or fake anyway, I'll give myself a pass. And on that note, the SEC has officially filed a complaint against the Ponzi scheme participants on April 12th. Now, just because a person was named as a defendant in the complaint doesn't mean they knowingly participated. And in fact, the SEC states multiple times that the defendants engaged in the above referenced conduct knowingly or with severe recklessness. So there's still a lot of details to be sorted out. But there are 2 new solicitors to add to the Ponzi scheme org chart from the complaint, Denny Sieber and Roland Tanner of Henderson, Nevada. And if you were introduced to the J&J slip and fall Ponzi scheme through Denny Sieber, it was probably through Rocking House Properties LLC. And if you were introduced to the J&J slip and fall Ponzi scheme through Roland Tanner, you probably did so through Anthem Investments LLC. The complaint states that Yeager stated that Tanner worked under him, so Tanner was a sub-solicitor much like Jason Johnsword. All the other defendants were already known, but I'll add these red boxes around those entities and these scales of justice to indicate they were named as defendants and deserve a fair trial. The SEC also named relief defendants, and I'm not a lawyer so I didn't even know what that meant and I had to look it up. And according to this article, a relief defendant is a person who has illegally obtained property but is not accused of any sort of wrongdoing. So these are the named relief defendants. And I'll use this money bag icon to designate those parties. The complaint stated that Beasley Law Group sent JK2 Investments LLC an undisclosed amount, Sterling Consulting LLC at least $30 million, CJ Investments at least $25 million, over $690,000 to Rocking Horse Properties LLC, at least $1.4 million to the Judd Irrevocable Trust, at least $500,000 to BJ Holdings, which is managed by J&J Consulting Services and the Beasley Law Group, and holds assets that were purchased using the investor funds, including a 2008 Hawker Beechcraft 900 XP private jet. Because why not buy a private jet? Low profiles are for suckers. Over $9 million to Triple Threat Basketball, at least $6.5 million to ACAC LLC, nearly $4 million to Anthony Alberto Jr., and nearly $3 million to Monte Crew, which was managed by Alberto. So this $7 million was basically paid by Beasley to his bookie to pay off gambling debt. And at least $824,000 to PAJ Consulting, which is controlled by Jeffrey Judd's son, Preston Judd. PAJ also received another $990,000 directly from J&J Consulting, for a total of over $1.8 million. The complaint also states that from at least 2017 to March 2022, over 600 investors invested in the scheme, and it appears that at least $449 million in investor funds flowed into the scheme through Beasley's Law Group's attorney trust IOLTA account at Wells Fargo. So I need to update this total to $449 million, which is a lot of freaking money. Jason Johnsword claimed $53 million of that, so that leaves $396 million for the other solicitors to have brought in. As for the use of those funds, the SEC complaint states Beasley, Judd, and others used a portion of investor monies to make periodic payments of fictitious returns on the purchase agreements to investors in a Ponzi-like fashion, but used the bulk of investor money to fund lavish lifestyles, including purchasing luxury homes and properties, a private jet, ATVs, boats, and numerous luxury cars for themselves and their relatives. Each of Judd, Humphreys, Yeager, Johnsword, Sieber, and Tanner recruited dozens, if not hundreds, of investors into the scheme and received transaction-based compensation for bringing in additional investors and more money from existing investors, even though none of them were registered as a broker-dealer nor associated with a broker-dealer registered with the commission. And if that's true, shame on you guys. And here's some additional new information to add to the plotline of this story that was not found in that SEC complaint. According to this Las Vegas Review-Journal article, Peter Christensen of Christensen Trial Lawyers is representing Chris Humphreys, and Thomas Erickson of Oronzo and Erickson Injury Lawyers is representing Jason Johnsword. Larry Jeffrey is another authorized agent or solicitor to add to the Ponzi scheme's org chart based on the purchase agreements he signed stating he was. If you got involved in the J&J Slip and Fall Ponzi scheme through Larry Jeffrey, you probably did so through his company, Capital Core Financial Incorporated. Don't forget to check out the links in this video's description section if you want more of the full story. Hit that subscribe button if you like this video and want to be notified about future updates. Leave a comment to let me know your thoughts, and if you have any information or missing pieces to this puzzle, send an email my way at info@watchyardcapital.com. I'm Steven with WatchYard Capital. Avoid Ponzi schemes and invest your time wisely.